Okay, hello. So I'm going to show you how you're going to go ahead and access the computer you've been assigned through Splashtop, and also how you're going to access from there through remote desktop connection the share folder location on our network on campus in order to access ISOs, etc. So first, as you can see, I have a long list of computers that are available to me because I am the administrator of the setup. So you would not see the list that I have here. But for our purposes, I'm going to go ahead and use this computer down here at the bottom. So you're going to go ahead and select on the computer system that you've been assigned. Click on the Connect button. You may see a pop-up show up such as this, says Open Splashtop Business App. So I'm going to go ahead and open it. And now you should see the login page for this particular computer. So we now have our remote connection to this system. Depending on the class you are in and depending on what type of a system you've been assigned, you may have a student profile available or an administrator profile available. In this case, we have the administrator profile that is available to you as the student. You are going to use the password. Password is capital P, @SSW0RV, hit enter, and that will log you into your system. So here we see the screen. We have some updates here. We're going to go ahead and click on view just to get it out of our way for the time being. And we see that we are now on a desktop, a standard Windows desktop. This is for server. So we're here. Now what do we do? Well, we're going to be operating in the Hyper-V environment. In order to get to the Hyper-V environment in server, we're going to go to the server manager. We're going to click on that. Or if you do not have that option available down in your quick launch, right in the bottom left-hand corner, you can always use the search function here next to the Windows button and type in Server Manager. Our lab manager has already configured or enabled Hyper-V on the systems. So you should simply be able to get to the Hyper-V manager by going up here to the top right-hand corner where it says Tools, select Tools, and select Hyper-V Manager. So we are now in the Hyper-V Manager. This is where we're going to manage all of the all of the virtual machines that we have available. Remember that the Hyper-V Manager is simply a container. It's a management tool in which you're going to store all of your virtual machines that you may have configured. For our purposes, we're going to go ahead and do a installation of Server 2016 into a virtual machine. So on the right-hand side, under Actions, we see Import Virtual Machines, etc. But the very first thing is New. You're going to select New. And by the way, there's one caveat. At this point, you should probably double-check if you have the ISO, which is the image file, for Server 2016 available. But we'll get to that in just one second. So we have new virtual machine, hard disk, floppy disk. So we're going to go ahead and select virtual machine, although first I'm going to check and find out if I have that ISO available. So for the time being, I'm simply going to minimize this, as well as the server manager. And I'm going to go over here to my File Explorer, and I'm going to look for either in Downloads or anywhere else if there is a ISO of Windows Server 2016. And in this case, there isn't. So I need to get one. How do I get this? Select Network. And as we see here, file sharing is not turned on. This is by default for security purposes. We're going to go ahead and access, however, the network share that exists on the college's website or on the program's network. So we're going to let this finish running real quick until that. Okay, it's all green, so we're done. Now we're going to go ahead and type in here the following: //TCCIT Cartman, like the South Park character, /share, like the singer, /share, folder share. Enter. Here it's going to ask you for credentials. You will use student credentials. The username is student, STUDENT. The password is password, capital P, @SSW0RD. Enter. So you have now entered the share folder where we store software available to students for the program, at least locally within the network on TCC. So we have a folder here marked ISOs. You can ignore that one. We're going to go down to Windows Server. Click on that, open it up. You'll see 3 folders, one 2012, one 2016, one 2019. We're going to use 2016 for the time being. So double click on that. And now we see that there are 2 different options here. We've got a Windows Server 2016, updated February 2018, Microsoft Hyper-V Server 2012, rdebug, so on and so forth. We are going to use this one right here. So click and drag to your desktop. This will take a few minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording and come back to it when it's done. This is going to create a copy of the ISO on your local desktop, so you can access it anytime you want to create a virtual machine using that image file. Okay, now that the file is completely transferred over, we're going to continue with the Hyper-V virtual machine installation. You can see the file here, Windows Server 2016. It is now on the desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and close this window, go back to the bottom here, and open up the Hyper-V Manager. Okay, now that we're here in the Hyper-V Manager, and we know that we have an ISO available on the local system, we're going to go ahead and go here to the right-hand side where it says Actions and select New Virtual Machine. So we're going to click Next, and we're going to go ahead and name it. For the time being, I'm simply going to call it whatever my fingers touch on the keyboard. But you probably will have some desired name that you want to go ahead and use. That's quite all right. Then go ahead and click on Next. We're going to use a default location, by the way. We're going to use Generation 1 also. Now, for the startup memory, server needs a bit more memory than other virtual machines in order to work. So we're going to double the startup memory to 2048. We can also use the dynamic memory if we need to for this virtual machine, which is simply going to dynamically allocate the memory available on the host to the virtual machine based on demand. Now we're going to go ahead and select Next. Enter the new virtual machine. The new virtual machine includes a network adapter. We're going to use the new virtual switch. And then we're going to select Next. We are going to create a new virtual hard disk, and it should have the name of the new virtual machine that we labeled. Select Next. Okay, now here, we're going to select Install an operating system from a bootable CD DVD-ROM. And we're going to select Image File here under Media. Now we're going to use the Browse button on the right-hand side to browse to the location of the downloaded ISO folder. In this case, it's sitting on the desktop. So we select Desktop, click on the copy of Server 2016, select the Open button on the bottom, select Next, and select Finish. Hyper-V Manager is going to go ahead and configure the container for this virtual machine. And now the virtual machine has been instantiated. It exists. However, just like any operating system, we still need to go through the process of installing the actual software. All we did was tell it where to look for the copy of Windows that we're using. Note that here under virtual machines, it's designated as off in its current state. Going to go ahead and double click on it. Here it says the new virtual machine, or sorry, the virtual machine is turned off. To start the virtual machine, select Start from the action menu above. So over here we have File, then Action, Start. We're going to select Start. This is going to go through the server installation process. Just like installing Windows on a new machine, it's going to go through the exact same process here. And we will be installing Server 2016 in its basic form. So now we see the splash screen where it says Windows Server, Windows Setup, Windows Server 2016. We're going to leave the default language for now of English. We're going to select Next. We're going to select Install Now. I do not have a product key. We're going to be using the trial period for the case of this course because the product key will not be, the system is going to be recycled at the end of this course. So select I don't have a product key. Now we have options here. Windows Server 2016 Standard, Desktop Experience, Data Center Desktop Experience. We are going to use Data Center Desktop Experience. Why? Because this gives us the most functionality. Go ahead and select Next. Accept the license terms. Next. We are not doing an upgrade, so we are going to do a custom. We have unallocated space here in our virtual hard drive. So we're going to select New, so the star right here. Select New. We're going to use the entirety of this size of space that we have. So we have 127 gigs available. So that's roughly 130,048 megabytes. Apply. Click OK. Now we see that the system has created two different partitions. That's quite all right. Now we're going to go ahead and select Next. And it's going to go through the rest of the installation setup process. Once the system reboots, when it's finished installing, it's going to prompt you, well, actually beforehand, it's going to prompt you for certain settings. One of the things that you need to do is create an administrator password for your virtual machine. Please use the same password, capital P @SSW0RD, so that you do not forget it and you are able to access your virtual machine. Because if you do not, you might end up having to rebuild your virtual machine from scratch. So once this is complete, we'll come back and I'll show you the next steps. Okay, now the installation process is almost complete. The system is restarted. And again, remember, this is our virtual machine. This is not the host, not the actual computer in which this is running. This is running within Hyper-V. And we see our little splash screen saying to activate Windows. And it's going to come up here in just a second. Okay, now the system is rebooted a couple more times, and we are done. We're now at the customize settings screen. So here, we're going to go ahead and set a password. Again, I suggest using something simple or preferably the capital P @SSW0RD. Enter on the keyboard, finalize the setup. Okay, so how do we get to Control-Alt-Delete here? Well, one thing I also forgot to mention is getting to Control-Alt-Delete in Splashtop. You want to use, at the top toolbar here, you have some options. CAD, that's what you're going to use within Splashtop. But within Hyper-V, so in our virtual machine, the top left-hand corner, Control-Alt-Delete, takes us to Administrator. We can go ahead and log in using our password. And once you log in the first time, it'll finish creating the user profile, etc. And this is going to complete the basic installation of Server. Now, there are many features that you'll be enabling, I'm sure, depending on the class you're taking, and many things that you'll be using, such as Active Directory, elevating a privilege to being a domain controller, etc. But this is where we're going to go ahead and end this portion. So, thank you.